120 years ago, 130 years ago, all Americans ate were animal fats. And the rates of cardiovascular disease were a fraction of what they are today.
Yeah.
So anyone who wants to argue that animal fats are the cause of cardiovascular disease, you got a really hard argument to make, because there's a natural experiment of many millions of Americans from 1900 or 1875 showing very low rates of cardiovascular disease. And then something happened in 1950 with Ansel Keys, the 7 country study.
They couldn't have the narrative more wrong about heart disease, saturated fats, and all these conspiracy theories about the American Heart Association. So if you're really interested in the truth, listen up, I'll give it to you, and be sure and hit the like, follow, share button and hear more about it. Let's start off with there wasn't heart disease in the 1850s and 1880s. Do you know why? Because people died long before they got heart disease. You know what the major causes of death were? Pneumonia, diphtheria, smallpox, tuberculosis, all of those things infectious disease which modern science conquered. We also didn't know if people died of heart disease because we didn't have electrocardiograms, we didn't have cardiac enzymes, we had none of that until the 1920s and beyond. Number 2, do you know that heart disease has actually gone down from the 1950s until today by about 70-some%? Do you know the reason it's gone down? He sort of indicates it's gone up, and it used to be lower because of saturated fat. It's gone down because we took saturated fat out of the diet. Here's the reference here that you can look at the decline of heart disease and cardiac deaths in the last 50 plus years, and that's the reason. Several things happen. We stopped smoking as America. We got better cardiac intervention. We have better cardiac drugs, better control of blood pressure. And the other one, we changed from a diet of saturated fat to a diet of vegetable oils. That's pretty clear and in the analysis. Why Paul doesn't read it, I mean, I know Gary Brecka doesn't read it, I don't know. But they're trying to do a narrative where they are selling supplements and scams to you, trying to say they know better than all of the cardiologists who study this for a living from these two guys that actually don't see patients. The data is clear. The best diet you should eat is not a carnivore diet. It really is the Mediterranean diet. Because unlike that grand experiment Paul talks about from the 1800s where people were eating saturated fat, Keys actually did an experiment with 14,000 people, following them over 50 years, carefully following them every year with lab tests, EKGs, what they ate, and what they discovered was the diet that kept people alive the longest with the less heart disease, less cancer, and more longevity is what we today call the Mediterranean diet. Not the carnivore diet, not the keto diet, but the Mediterranean diet. Want to learn that more? Like, follow, share.